Hey everybody, welcome to SEAS Backstage. This is your all-access pass to everything you need to know to design, produce, and inspire your next event. I'm your host, Troy Peters, SEAS Productions' very own Chief Experience Officer, here to guide you through the world of live event production. Remember to subscribe to the podcast at seaspro.com/backstage or wherever you find your favorite podcasts. Today, I'm very excited about this talk. Today on the podcast is international 3D immersive holographic keynote speaker who speaks on emotional intelligence for sales and leadership, all while helping professionals make intentional choices to sell faster, lead better, and persuade instantly. Please welcome to the SEAS Backstage podcast, Sylvie di Giusto.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm so excited to be here, Troy. You have no idea.
Awesome.
You know, the most favorite thing about my profession and probably yours is, isn't it amazing that we always get a backstage view in the in the biggest variety of industries, professions, and now I'm here backstage with you where all the magic happens at SEAS Pro, and I'm so excited to see that. Thank you very much for that gift.
Thank you for making the trek out here. I know you were in town speaking at a conference in San Diego, so coming up to North County means a lot. We gave you a tour of all the magic that happens backstage. This really is backstage, right? The warehouse and all the things that go on in order to put on these events. So tell me, I give a pretty good description of what you do, and I love following your LinkedIn posts and everything that you do out there. But that description only scratches the surface. Tell me a little bit about, your involvement and how you've got such an omnipresent pulse, like finger on the pulse of our industry, not just for speakers, but just events in general. And we'd love to hear your perspective on what you do and how you engage and what's been making you successful.
So for 20 years, I spent backstage or on the other side in corporate, and I actually hired a lot of speakers. And I make myself believe until today that this is a huge advantage that I have been on the client side for a very long time.
Absolutely.
I built up a management and leadership academy for Europe's biggest tourism and retail company, and hosted events from small 50 people events up to 1,000 people conferences. And so I know a little bit the backstage side or the back end side of what mattered back then to clients. And I think some of the things still apply and some have changed very well. Second, I am very blessed to be involved in the National Speakers Association, the greatest association in our profession, and am gifted with a backstage view there too. And, the learnings that I take away there from volunteering and just seeing how some of my speaker colleagues operate, or how one of the greatest event producers we have there builds those amazing events, gives me so many insights that when I walk away as a speaker, I can apply so many things on my own business. And I think one of the biggest differentiators that I believe that I bring on top of this to this industry is that I think good is not enough anymore. Being good in this industry, if you are average, if you deliver something that anybody else could deliver, you're not standing out enough. And the hardest job, even if you have a hard job, even if the meeting planner has a hard job, even if the client has a hard job in terms of financial investment, the speaker doesn't have a hard job. That is just a rumor. That is not true. We have the easiest job. The hardest job at an event is to be an audience member.
Right. That's great perspective.
Have you ever sat through an entire conference?
Oh, yeah.
In a chair?
Yeah.
And listened to one keynote through the other that always follows the same formula. Introduction, slide deck, story, humor, data, facts and figures, next story. And it's really hard to sit there and stay engaged.
Yeah, and to listen and capture all those words and really take something away that you can then bring back to your organization or whatever the purpose that you're in those chairs, right?
Yes.
So if it's not being delivered, that's such a great example of, I even just think about high school, right? Those teachers that took a little bit more effort to be different, those are the ones I remember 40 years later, right? Like, I'm like, that changed who I was.
Yeah.
And that's what you want to be as a speaker.
Exactly. And so during my time in corporate, when I was in retail and tourism, I was blessed with a CEO who always said leadership doesn't happen in the glass door offices or in the glass wall offices. Leadership happens at the floor. So I had to work as a cashier for a day in one of our retail stores, or he sent us into the logistics center and we had to learn how a logistics center operates.
Yeah.
And I apply that principle until today, that I sit in conferences and I want to experience how it feels to be an audience member. And it's rough. It's really rough. And so as a speaker, you better come up with something very unique that keeps them at the edge of their chairs.
Yeah.
And your success nowadays is measured on how often do they take out their phones.
Yeah. Oh, so true. Hopefully if they're taking their phones out, they're writing notes, right? Sometimes that's what
or
you're
taking
hoping for.
pictures, but if they're on their phones, checking their emails,
they've disconnected. You've lost them.
You've lost them.
You spoke a little bit about National Speakers Association, which is where we met.
Yes.
I've been involved with National Speakers Association for the better part of a decade. And we're now producing Influence, which will be at the Westin Kierland this summer. Will you be at National Speakers Association?
I wouldn't miss it.
Fantastic.
No chance. And if you are serious about your speaking business, you have to be there. It's the number one event that you have to see and experience.
I agree. And I'm looking forward to going out and sort of being behind the stage. So if anybody's out there that wants to and finds me and sees me, ask for a quick tour. I'll give you a tour of backstage, what it looks like. But it is so important, as you said, to be involved. And you've been a chair of Influence. You've been on the board as well with National Speakers.
I represented them on the Global Speakers Federation board.
So share a little bit about, no matter what industry you're in, and we love our associations. It was such a grounding point for me growing up. My father was a treasurer of an engineering association and for many years and a secretary. And it just instilled in me early the importance of associations, no matter what industry you're in. Share a little bit about what that's meant to you and having that group of partnerships and relationships and things that you get by being and not just paying a membership, but actually being an engaged member.
An engagement. So here's the thing. The first time when you join an association and go to an event, just go there and enjoy and, get embedded into the DNA of your association. But I always recommend, as soon as possible, get involved. And here is the reason why. If you only go to their events with the mindset to receive, you will always be disappointed.
Right.
There will always be a speaker who doesn't hit the mark. There will always be a breakout that you didn't like. There will always be a food menu item that you don't like. There will always be temperature.
Yeah.
You will always find reasons why you didn't like that conference.
Right.
You will always find reasons to complain. If you go with the mindset not to receive but to give every single time, you will never be disappointed.
Thank you so much for saying that.
Yeah.
It's very true.
I leave every single time. My heart and my soul is filled because I know I contributed something. And rather than complaining about the issues, I decided I become part of the solution.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
You don't love the speakers, you can help pick the speakers if you're on that committee, right?
Yes,
so
yes.
You can
just
guide
get involved
and
you will never be disappointed.
That's
you
right.
will always leave happy and fulfilled.
So looking at your career and sort of how you got into it, you shared a little bit about you were on the client side, which I agree that's where I started as well. It just gives you such a full perspective on what you're trying to accomplish. But then you really took it different. We work with hundreds of speakers a year, keynote speakers that are on the main stage, but you really embrace technology. Talk a little bit about when that spark happened of, okay, I can see where there's something missing that people aren't really bridging that gap. And we try, and I even talk with you about never, and with all of our clients, about never letting the technology get too far in front of you. We'll have you and your hologram, for example. I've had other clients that have seen that and said, we want to do that. And I always have to say, tell me the purpose first. Why, right? Like, and they're response is typically, it looks neat. And that's, I'm like, that's not a good enough reason. So how did you find that you were like, okay, I get it. I see the reason. I see the purpose. I see how this can make me sort of maybe elevate my game a little bit. But how did you first make that technology leap and connect with the technology? And then really you own it and you are so good at it and so good at working with our teams and the teams that are backstage. Where did that come from?
You know, from the first moment where I saw the inspiration and had the idea to now where we performed it dozens of times. First of all, this was a process of 5 years in the meantime. And at the very beginning, it's actually not about the technology. It's about the idea. What do you want to do with it? How would you like? What would you like to achieve? And then also, how can I make this happen in a way that it's actually doable?
Right.
Right. Logistic-wise, cost-wise, easy and smooth for the client. And then it's great if you have contacts like the National Speakers Association, the fantastic Candice York that we have there. She was one of the first ones I called, because then you have the network and the insights of somebody who is in the other side. And I said, if I would have this idea, how could we make this happen, right? To give you the insights to make this smooth and easy for the client. Secondly, the technology is just a vehicle.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
I never wanted to call it, for example, a holographic show.
Right.
Because then you limit it to the holograms. And the holograms are just a tool for me to transport a specific message in a different way. When it becomes about the technology for the audience, it is distracting. It is more distracting than it's actually helpful. And then it took me more than a year to actually deconstruct my keynote and let go of the things we are so used to, because we are used to show one slide after the other slide after the other slide, and transport it into a new format, into a new technology. And how can I tell that story differently? There's one favorite moment that many of my audience members quote afterwards. I show one holographic animation with terms on the screen, right? And they're floating around me. And one of those terms is a typo. And when I know the animation is on the screen, you know, I hear the people kind of,
Yeah.
I mean, what a disappointment. She does this mega show
all this
here,
work
all this work
to make one mistake.
To make one mistake, right? But in reality, while those words float around my head, I'm talking about negativity bias. I explain the concept of negativity bias on stage.
Right.
And point out how human beings always see the things that are wrong first before we see the things that are right.
Yes.
And all their brains are so focused on that one word with the typo, while they don't see the other dozens of words that float around that are all correct. And then I reveal it to them and say, let's just be honest.
And they have their aha moment.
Yes, and then it's a huge, laughter in the audience, because they catch themselves in their own biases right there in that moment, because I just showed them very true and real that they just did what I talked in theory. That's so awesome. The technology is just the vehicle that I use to make them feel something, experience something, and then hopefully, because that's our job, take something home that they apply later on to their lives, to their businesses, to their careers.
I love that. And I often tell people that we really are the conduit between the idea and the delivery, right? Or a great example is, a political summit where you've got two world leaders or multiple world leaders that maybe don't see eye to eye, but our job is to make sure they can communicate, right?
Yes.
And that's kind of what you're doing. That's what you're doing.
Yes.
And you're really trying to make sure that they're, even that self-doubt that you're giving them, or that like realization of like, oh my gosh, she caught me, is just so brilliant. And you really are just helping them see themselves, which is, I mean, you get it perfectly.
I always say, and my speaker colleagues don't like that, so don't put it out on the internet, because they don't like to hear that.
Right.
We don't get paid for the 45 minutes on stage.
It's all the work.
Yes. We don't. Those 45 minutes on stage, I would do them for free. that's my happiest place.
Right.
That's where we shine, right?
Yes.
If that is not your happiest place, then maybe you shouldn't be a speaker.
Right.
But those 45 minutes, that's our showtime. Oh my God, what a gift it is that
Yeah.
somebody allows us to be on that stage. But we get paid for two things. It's the work beforehand,
Yep.
the customization that we have to put in, the preparation we have to put in, and it's the outcome on the other side. We actually get paid for our people able to apply anything afterwards in their businesses, change something.
Yep.
And that's hard to measure, but that's our responsibility. It's not just about those 45 minutes.
I love that. You even said, I saw one of your LinkedIn posts today or yesterday, and it said, it's never a copy and paste moment, right?
No.
Anytime you take the stage, I could see you speak at one conference for pharmaceutical, and then I'm going to go to another conference for tech. You might be your same keynote, but it is very customized. And that is one thing that I think absolutely sets you apart. There's some keynote speakers where I've seen over and over, and I'm like, well, I've seen this. I'm not going to learn anything. But there's some keynote speakers, especially you, that, oh, it's Sylvie speaking again. I need to go see it. Because maybe I've seen her speak before, but it's not going to be the same.
It's not going
It
to be
never
the
is.
same. Yeah. And you know, that's our responsibility towards clients. That's what they actually pay us for. And also our success with the audience when they feel, she made that keynote just for us. And I think, yeah, because I did.
Yeah.
That's actually what happened. And isn't it a gift, Troy, that we are in a profession where we just got a backstage seat together because we produced that show together. Did you ever think about the fact how medication gets within 2 hours to a pharmacy?
Right?
I
Yeah.
never thought about that. And our clients gift us with that backstage view that I can analyze those processes, their business, their culture, their challenges, and help them and their audiences to understand how to thrive in that environment. And then we move on, and next week I just spoke to the biggest non-profit organization in the after-school program space, and I'm so blessed that I now understand how this industry works, right?
Yep.
And so customizing, to me, hasn't become work, it has become a gift.
Yeah. Oh, that's such a lovely way to put it. I absolutely love that. And the event that we just did together was the Healthcare Distribution Alliance. And I firsthand heard when your keynote ended, I heard the audience members get up and turn to each other and just say, how do we not know her? Because she obviously works in our sector. And people thought you lived and breathed that, but that shows the work that you do, the prep that you do to understand that client, understand that organization and the people in the room, right? What age are they at? What demographic? Who am I speaking to? You're just, you absolutely encompass all of that, which is amazing. How's the future look for what you're doing? You're so future focused. You're so good about being on that cutting edge. What are you seeing out there that's exciting you, both in our industry or for keynote speaking in particular, but also just globally with the evolution of AI and as that's kind of coming together? Tell us a little bit about what you see. What are you excited about? Maybe what are you afraid of? Let's talk about both sides.
So the evolution of AI will change our industry dramatically, like any industry. And I think what many speakers relied on in the past is that our role is knowledge transfer doesn't exist anymore in a few years. Knowledge already in the last years has been available on YouTube for free.
Right.
I really don't know anything, Troy, that isn't available on YouTube.
It's true, yeah.
And today, as we speak, I don't even need YouTube or Google anymore. I just ask ChatGPT, and it's at my fingertips, customized in the way I want it.
Yep.
So knowledge is not our unique selling point anymore in the future. And so I think the only chance that we have is that we present that knowledge in a way that only humans can, and that is so engaging and unique that technology cannot do that.
The human experience.
The human experience.
Right? And that, I think, with COVID, we saw that, right? When we had to present remotely, or we were bringing speakers in remotely, or we were even just on a Zoom call together, there is such a difference between remote and truly being together and connecting together and having those moments of aha together in a room, whether it's led by a keynote speaker or a facilitator, or just sitting across the table from somebody and breaking bread.
Exactly. Yeah. And what really excites me is while many people think, virtual reality, augmented reality, that's so far away. And we will never use it at events. It's too expensive. It's too complicated. Well, 5 years ago, people told me holograms, that's so far away. We will never use it. We will never do it. It's so complicated. And I'm kind of, just give it to me.
Yeah.
Just let me work with it.
Yep.
And I'm already excited about the conversations we're going to have afterwards, off microphone, of what's possible. What could we do? What could we do nobody believes in today is possible? And we know in 5 years from now, we can disrupt the market and be the first ones who offer it.
I love it. We just did an event where the client we had about 3,000 people in the audience, and they wanted to really give them the idea of a sense of place when they had a company from Germany that was presenting to this room and wanted to show how they were building these light rail trains.
Oh, yeah.
And so we built a projection surface that was 300 feet wide, and it wrapped the ballroom because that way we could make it look like they were sitting in the lab in Germany. And then we had a team there that filmed in 4 directions, and then we projected it, and it felt like you were in Germany watching them build this train.
Yes.
Yeah, it's amazing. And
so I was blessed to see a video of that.
Did you? Oh, fantastic.
And even, talking about virtual, it was just on the screen for me, and I got goosebumps seeing that train running around.
Full-size train driving right through the ballroom.
It was amazing. And those are the experiences that I think the future of events will ask more of, and not the keynote speaker who comes and presents 15 bullet points, as smart as they might be.
Yep.
But the 15 bullet points I get for free and faster from ChatGPT.
Yep. It's so true. Who do you look up to? Who's influenced you over the years? Is there anybody out there that you're like, wow, anybody watching should be like, read this book or go find this speaker and hear this speaker? Is there anybody out there that has done that for you?
Oh, so many. That is such a tough question. Let me share a story from NSA.
Perfect.
The National Speakers Association, and it was my first influence ever. And as I told you, I instantly got involved. I instantly was backstage and had the honor to host the green room.
Oh, nice.
To take care of the speakers.
Yep.
And to make sure that they are ready for their big main stage moment.
I think that's the first time we worked together.
Oh,
I remember you were running all over backstage. Yeah, that would have been the first year. Yeah. And that is officially 10 years then.
Yeah.
Wow.
And we still look the same and didn't age a day.
Oh, I'm a little younger than I was, for sure. Don't look at the gray hair.
So I was backstage, and there was this gentleman. And he was rehearsing his lines up and down. He even had his wife with him, and he was rehearsing to her. And then at one point he asked me if he can do a bit on me and rehearse. And I thought, total newbie, I thought to myself, oh my God, who is that? He must be new. This must be his first presentation ever.
Sure.
I even questioned NSA a little bit. I thought, well, why would they put such an inexperienced speaker on main stage as a closing keynote? This is going to be a disaster. He seems to be so nervous. And so as he finally went on stage, I thought, okay, it's the last session. Now I'm going to go out and sit in the audience, because I think that's going to be a train wreck.
Yep.
And I watched the greatest keynote from the greatest keynoter I have ever seen in my life. Mark Scherenbrock, Hall of Fame keynote speaker, who had nothing tried but a microphone.
Yeah.
And he changed the temperature in that room.
I love it.
And it showed me that even, here's the lesson, the greatest keynoters, no matter how far they are in their career, rehearse and work on their craft until the last moment, because they respect every single stage so much that when they walk on, they want it to be perfect.
Yeah.
I knew we didn't know him, thought it's a first-timer, until I realized that he's one of the greatest speakers. And this keynote, till today, is one of the greatest keynotes where a man, nothing with words, and a microphone changed the room full of speakers. That's a tough audience
Yeah, no
to be
kidding.
in front of.
That audience in particular, if you can capture them, you're doing it all right. Yeah. And I love that. How do you find that you this is advice to some of those maybe up and coming speakers that maybe aren't as comfortable in their own skin, but how do you give advice? One of my favorite things to share is, I'll work with all sorts of speakers, celebrities, sports celebrities, actors, all these professionals, presidents, and, recently just worked with Bill Clinton. And one of my favorite things, and I've worked with him a few times, is that every time he shows up backstage, he introduces himself to everybody. He says, "Hi, I'm Bill Clinton." And I'm like, yeah, we know who you are. But that always stuck with me as a leader in our own company about, like, don't take it for granted. Don't assume everybody knows who you, like, don't think your ego is so important that everybody should know who you are when you walk in a room. How do you keep humble? How do you stay, you're doing all these exciting things. You definitely need it to run the way you need it to run. Your talk is, when you're doing the holograms, very technical. So how do you give space so that people can give you ideas and you can listen and think about, like, just stay humble, I guess is the question I'm asking. How do you stay humble? Because you're so amazing. You're on top of the world.
Just be
what's
a
your
good
secret?
human.
Be a good human.
Just be a good human.
I love that.
Period. And at events, if you ever have had the gift to be backstage or have had the client perspective as we had, somebody who produces an event like this has 1,000 things to worry about. And so many things are going wrong at every event. That's the nature of an event, because it's such it's a time frame where nothing can be missed.
Right.
We don't have a replay.
There's no take two.
Yes, there's no take two,
Yep.
right? So things are going wrong and we are hiding them. We are hiding them from the audience. So there is a lot of pressure backstage. And so as a speaker, your number one responsibility is you must be at the very end of this list. The last thing to worry about. In fact, you must make sure that you don't add to this list,
Right.
or help your client and your event producer or your meeting professional to remove some things from that list. Just be a good human and be easy to work with.
I love it. Just be a good human, people. That's all we're asking. And that, I mean, honestly, that has been, I think, a bit of a mantra for me, whether I've realized it or not, because any time I've gone down that wrong road of maybe offending somebody, I share a really quick story about, like, because I worked in motion picture production, that's where I started out. And working in motion picture, you get an ego pretty quickly, right? You are working with celebrities and stars and paparazzis trying to crash the film set that you're on and all these sorts of things. So the industry itself helps you to be a bit of an egomaniac. And I remember that one time there was a production assistant that I maybe was like, "You don't know what you're doing. I'm the boss here." I was a lighting designer for this movie we were doing, and felt so bad about, I was stressed out of some stuff going on. I felt so bad. I apologized profusely, did everything I could to just let her know that I am a good person. And we've been married for 15 years. So
Good.
so
that's a good comeback.
Yeah, that was a good comeback. We
talk.
talked a little bit about hard skills, technology, and really understanding what all of those things it takes, and all the headache and the joy that comes from all of that hard work. What feeds your soul? How do you, when you're not on stage, what recharges you? What is your love of doing? For me, it's, family, cooking, play a little bit of golf, travel. That feeds my soul probably more than anything else. What are Sylvie's little tricks and things that she likes to do when she's got some downtime?
2 things. No, actually 3. 3 things. The first thing, good humans.
Good humans. Again.
Good humans.
Yeah.
Feed my soul.
Yeah.
But that was a learning process. Over the years, I had to learn how to set boundaries. And I was not good in that. I was very much a people pleaser, letting people very close into my life because I thought I had to, realizing that they drain my energy, my soul. And when I leave, I feel heavier. and I should leave happier. I should
Yeah,
feel
a little jump in
lighter,
your step.
right?
Yeah.
And I really worked on myself and on my boundary setting to remove those humans out of my inner circle that don't feed my soul.
Perfect.
And I feel like right now I'm at such a healthy place with my closest friends.
Yep.
And that circle has become smaller naturally, where I know I can count on those people. And I'm actually enjoying being around them all
Yeah.
the time. And I leave them fulfilled.
Right. I love that.
Yes. And then there are my children.
All
You know,
right.
I am blessed with 2 children, teenagers, who don't go through the same teenage phase than their mother. So I'm very lucky.
Okay.
I'm
Yeah.
very lucky.
They're their own. They're not. Yeah. Okay.
And it's just amazing and heartbreaking alike to see. For me, it was always very important to raise them very independent.
Mm-hmm.
And now they are so independent. I'm thinking, what the hell did I do? Now they don't need me anymore. And
Yes,
I'm kind
it's
of
a balance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you need me a little bit? Just a little bit, please?
Yep. Yeah.
And then there is a boat.
Oh,
There is a boat in front of my home.
I've heard of this boat.
That is famous
Yeah.
boat. Are you even in the event industry if you haven't been on my boat yet,
Maybe
Troy?
not. Maybe not.
Right?
I'm trying to think of when I'm in Tampa next. I'll
Yeah,
hit you up.
exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
And so to go out on that boat and just be by myself or with my good human friends
Yep.
is one of the happiest places I can be.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much. Thank you a million for coming and being on our podcast. I've been a fan for a long time. I love this good human sitting in front of me, sitting with me and being on our podcast. But I really appreciate it. And hopefully we'll do more of these. We'll kind of keep in the Sylvie slant on what we're doing here at SEAS
yes.
Pro and as we build and grow.
Thank you very much for having me on your podcast. Thank you very much for always working with me and your team on a level that I'm repeating myself, that I always tell you, just like in my world, in your world, it's not about the technology. You bring in a lot of cables and boxes
Yeah.
and
we
stuff that
do.
I don't touch,
Yep.
that I respect, but the humans that you bring in care so much more than any other production company I have also the pleasure to work with.
Thank you so much for saying
But
that.
what you put together on your team and the events and the atmosphere that you create at these events is really unique and really special. So thank you very much for gifting us and your clients with
I
that.
really appreciate that. Thank you so much. And thanks for raising the bar. Every time we get the call from you, it's like, okay, what are we doing?
Yeah.
So we
Wait,
love
what's
it.
next?
We love it.
Wait, what's next?
All right, I'm in. We're in. This has been SEAS Backstage, your all-access pass to everything you need to know to design, produce, and inspire your next event. Please remember to subscribe to the podcast at seaspro.com/backstage or wherever you find your favorite podcasts. And thank you again to my lovely human, good human, Sylvie di Giusto for coming on our podcast today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.